Welcome to Rise to Lead, the podcast where heart-driven leaders come together to inspire and innovate. They will share actionable tips and insights that help you lead your team more successfully, advance your career or business as a leader, achieve greater impact, and experience deeper fulfillment. I'm your host, Regina Huber, guiding you through deep conversations about leadership that's rooted in service, freedom, and the desire to leave a positive mark on the world. Hello. Welcome to the Rise to Lead show. You are in for a treat. Today, I'll introduce an extremely knowledgeable guy and dear friend of more recent times, Miles Austin in the UK. We're keeping it international here. Welcome to the show, Miles Austin.
How are we doing? Are you all right, Regina, today?
I am doing awesome. Thank you so much. And even more so that I see you. So we're going to have a
Amazing.
really cool presentation and conversation here, a presentation of your work and conversation together, right? Miles Austin, let me just quickly read your bio, Miles, okay? Miles Austin was previously a barber, and more recently he progressed into the entrepreneurial world. He works with many businesses as their man on the creative side of their business, and I can attest to that. He is their creative director. He makes things look nice on the front and brings new, fresh ideas to the table, just like on my website. His main skills include funnel building and AI. However, he has many other skills. He's also an investor, wow, mainly in crypto. His human design type is a manifesting generator or time bender, meaning he is someone who loves to initiate, to come up with amazing, innovative ideas, while also being able to implement those ideas. It's a great combination. I've worked with Miles during the time leading up to my podcast launch. He's been the one producing my first episodes, and the reason I invited him to be on with me as a guest is because he clearly has a leader attitude. On this podcast, there will be a lot of guests who are in leadership roles, in official like leadership positions, or leadership experts like coaches, for example. But leadership is not always about a position or a role. Actually, it's never only about that. Leadership is an attitude. It is a skill set. It's also, in my opinion, in constant evolution. It's not something static. It's expressed in attitude, in behavior, and yes, also, of course, in words. Plus, leadership is always also about self-leadership. All leadership starts with self. And at the root of all effective leadership is great self-leadership. It's the fundamental piece. And this is also one of the reasons why I invited Miles, because Miles is a truly remarkable guy, in my opinion. And I'm talking a lot right now because there's a lot to talk about when I look at you, Miles, but I'll let you talk in just a moment. First of all, he is more informed at his age about what's going on in the world than many leaders my age. I can tell you that. And in my opinion, he's one of the most emotionally intelligent people I have met. EQ is an indispensable leadership trait. He's incredibly patient. That's how I have experienced him, at least. And that is an ability that I personally admire very deeply, because I sometimes struggle a little bit with patience. I want everything done now and here. We talked about human design profiles before. So I'm an initiator. I'm a manifestor, initiator. I want it now. And, I have those ideas and I want to see it happen now. So patience is an acquired skill for me. It doesn't come necessarily natural to me. And I also have experienced Miles speaking at the Heroic Leadership Summit last year, when he shared some tidbits about his vast knowledge. And there wasn't too much time for that on that summit, but it was still super interesting, and especially about AI. Miles has that spirit of the more silent leader, and I cannot wait to hear what he has to share with us today. So, again, welcome to the show, Miles. I'm really, really thrilled to have you on.
Thank you, Regina, and that was an absolutely amazing introduction. I really appreciate that, and it's nice to hear what you think of me from your perspective. It's not every day that you get to hear that. Obviously, when we speak, you don't tell me what you think of me, so it's nice to hear that today. So thank you for that.
Yeah, we don't always have time to, or make the time to talk about these things. You talk about work, 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 and then it's a good opportunity for me today. So yes, definitely wanted to do that. Miles, I know a few pieces of your story, but definitely not enough. And I'm a super curious person. So I would love for you to share with us more about who Miles Austin is. And of course, our listeners also want to know more. So tell us about your background, especially the pieces that we haven't already heard in your bio, or maybe a little bit of backstory to that, and how you got to this place of entrepreneurship that you're in now, and as a leader in the area of AI and funnel building. So how did you decide to even get there or do that?
Yeah, so I started off in my earlier years. I was in school. I was a bit of a nightmare, a bit of a class clown, and I had no idea what I wanted to do. And so, after school, I decided to go to college because that was just a done thing, and that's what everybody did. So I was like, right, I'll just do the done thing and go there. I ended up doing some plumbing, which I hated. I did that for a year, and then I left and went into a job for Asda. And while I was there, the thing that stood out to me the most was just that I didn't belong there, and I wanted something better for my life. But I knew that really manual labor and office work and stuff like that like necessarily didn't really get my creative juices flowing enough. And so I thought, well, what can I do? Because my education wasn't the best. I know there's a lot of entrepreneurs. Some go to university and get into it that way, and some drop out of school and get into it that way. I never dropped out of school, but I didn't do well at the same time. And then I decided, you know what, I can become a barber. So I became a barber, right? And then in that really, for my earlier 20s, from like 23 to sort of 27, that was fantastic because it sort of got me out of the conventional sort of thing of having a job and having to go and speak to your boss every day and all that sort of thing. And for my younger years, that was really fantastic for me because it got me sort of into the entrepreneurial world in a way where I could have my own business. I could feel the challenges and stuff like that, what was associated with it. But then as I got into barbering over the course of those years, every year it sort of became less and less rewarding. I realized as I was getting older, I was like, wow, this requires more and more money and stuff like that as well. And I knew that barbering, even though it was a massive step up from actually ASDA for me personally, I
Mhm.
knew that it wasn't really my end goal, right? And so I then, from that point, I was trying to get into the entrepreneurial world since like the age of 23, when I became a barber, doing all sorts of different things. I've tried all sorts of different businesses. I think that any entrepreneur could probably attest to that. When you don't know what you're doing, you try to get into different things and you're trying to figure out really your path in life and what really works. And so, fast forward a little bit towards the age of 29, I finally started to get a grasp of things more in the entrepreneurial world. And then I met my business partner, Simon, which isn't here right now, but he usually is here right now. I literally work right next to him, but he's not in the room. So I finally met Simon, and then that brought me on to meeting Marco, which is a fantastic guy who me and Regina know. And, we both are associated with him in our own different ways. I work alongside him. Regina's one of his clients and stuff like that. And then, so from there, I basically got involved in Simon and Marco's SaaS company, which is software as a service. And so I help Marco and Simon run the creative side of the SaaS company. I also build sales funnels. I also do video editing, graphic stuff like that. AI, like Regina mentioned as well. And AI is something that I use every single day. And I'd say that that's not the most detailed recollection of my past, but just for this podcast and what it represents, I think that's what's relevant.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think so. I saw some photos actually of your barber time online, and it seems like you didn't just cut hair and beards, right? I saw some pretty amazing pictures there. So it was something. It was very creative work, and I think it was also a way for you to put your customers into the spotlight, just like you're doing now with your customers or clients, with your design and with your funnel building work. You're giving them the tools for them to be in the spotlight, right? And you overhauled my entire website. It's also falls into that category. So what is the heart-centered leadership aspect of that all? What does that mean to you, heart-centered leadership?
I think heart-centered leadership to me personally means leading from the heart. It goes back into something that you mentioned at the start, being very patient with people, understanding that everyone's a human being, understanding that we've all got us faults, we've all got us times when we can come across as annoying or we can come across as impatient. Or so you've just got to be patient with people. You've just got to make sure that you're understanding that it's another person who you're talking to. And just really making sure that as you're going through leadership decisions, you're doing those decisions with a moral attitude. You're always thinking of the most moral way you can actually make a decision and what's going to be right, not only for you, but for other people who are going to be involved in that decision. Because every decision that we make actually has a little bit of a ripple effect and affects everyone else as well, who are associating with us at that time. So that's what I'd say heart-centered leadership is for me.
That's great. And some decisions have a major effect. Right. And we see that all the time, everywhere around us, whether it's in politics or in an organization or in a small business, it doesn't matter whether it's in corporate or in a small business, it happens everywhere. Some decisions have really affect a lot of people very severely, and others affect a lot of people very positively with this positive impact. And that's what we want, not the first.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
exactly.
Yeah, so the biggest reason why I was keen on having you, apart from loving to talk to you, but I was on having you in this show is because I consider you one of the most emotionally intelligent people I have met. And I said that before, especially at your age. So share with us how you got to this level of emotional intelligence. It's truly impressive to me. For example, you have, as I said before, you seem to have the patience of a saint, and you don't seem to ever get triggered. How on earth did you go? Are you doing this, and how did you get to this level? Tell us your secrets.
So I think this is really interesting because on a day-to-day basis, I don't think, oh, I'm an emotionally intelligent person. It's sort of like there's part of it that comes naturally to me, and there's part of it that I learned. And I think part of it is so since I was like 16, I sort of got into politics. We won't like delve into politics in this, but I'll tell you how it affected me and my emotional intelligence. And that was like sort of having these conversations with people, and just speaking to people who disagree. And then, every time you have a conversation with somebody, it's easy when you've got this tribal instinct of like, oh, this is what I believe and this is what I believe, and it's easy to sort of like forget that someone else has got a different perspective on things. And so over time, as I've been researching and as I've been learning, I've just realized that, it don't matter if someone's got a difference of opinion to you. It don't matter, whether someone has disagrees with you. It's all about understanding their point of view. It's all about listening to them. It's all about trying to, you know, understand things from their perspective, sort of get into their shoes, so to speak. And I think, other than that, I think that, listening to audiobooks, which is one of my favorite things to do, learning about something called stoicism,
Mhm.
having it's all right to have the emotions, but sometimes, you've got to be able to regulate those emotions. You've got to have that self-awareness, and you've got to be able to sort of, feel the emotion, but also just what you're outwardly projecting. Just make sure that it's not sort of an overreaction, if that makes sense. Sit with something for a while. Don't just have a visceral reaction to it. Sit with it, and try to sort of stay centered in a way, like no matter what it is, no matter what comes across. And I think that's part of being a leader as well. It's like trying to, when the house is metaphorically burning down around you, is to sort of try to keep calm. Um, and I think that that's why you see me as this sort of like centered person who never really shows any kind of like, that I'm getting frustrated or that I'm getting impatient or whatever. Because even though on certain occasions I feel that way, it's sort of just like bringing myself back to the center and thinking, right, it's getting really overwhelming. But this is part of the growth, and this is part of character building. And the more of these stresses that we can actually deal with in life, the bigger as character grows, the better we become, and the more centered we become as a person. So I always welcome that. I always welcome these challenges. I always welcome, the metaphorical house burning down, because I feel like in those moments is when we actually grow the most.
Wow, I love this. Yes, resilience, right? We build resilience. We don't want it all every day because that can truly be too much. But if
Yeah,
it's not every day, and we have also, when we have found or developed tools that can help us in those situations. What I like to do, for example, in a situation of overwhelm. First of all, I remind myself that overwhelm is always self-created, so I can also discreate it. And then I use a tool sometimes of just going into the perspective of a hummingbird that flies, that sort of hovers above the situation and looks at the situation from outside. And then I ask myself the question, is this really as serious as it seems? What's the worst thing that could even happen? Right. So this type of very simple tools can sometimes very quickly pull us out of overwhelm, or a few deep breathing rounds, depending on everybody's preference, right? Also, one other thing that you said is, yes, we don't want to respond impulsively necessarily, and that usually happens when we get triggered, right? But rather really, or I should actually not use the word respond there, because that often we make that difference between react and respond, right? So we shouldn't react impulsively, but rather respond deliberately. That's probably how we can say it more correctly. Okay. Yes, and so I thought it wasn't really through studying EQ theories that you had acquired this ability, because that can be useful, but oftentimes the self-awareness that you mentioned, that is so key. Self-awareness helps us recognize our triggers, for example, right? And then we can just deliberately stop ourselves from bursting out in anger or exploding like a pressure cooker. Right.
yeah,
So that's a really great ability. And self-awareness is, of course, the basis of self-leadership. So we gain so much wisdom through personal experiences, right?
yeah, absolutely. And I think because I also consider myself to be an empath as well. So
Hmm.
having that, like, I'm actually quite an emotional person.
Hmm.
So to be able to control that from the aspect of being an emotional person, it sort of makes it even more tough, but I'd argue even more impressive as well, because you sort of, you're not holding back emotion, and you're not like bottling up emotion, but you're dealing with it in a really healthy way. And I think that's the key to anybody listening to this as well, is don't bottle up the emotion, but deal with it in a healthy way. Realize that you've got it there, sit in it, but don't bottle it up, and just allow yourself to sort of feel what you're feeling, but then release it when it's no longer serving you. And I think that that's the key.
You said the magic word, and then release it, because those emotions, they have a function, but it's most of the time temporary. And then we just need to avoid to get stuck in them and to carry them around with us forever, right? Yeah, so that's really cool. You and I have had some long conversations about what's going on in the world, and I think both of us value the significance of leaders informing themselves from diverse sources rather than just one line of, one channel or whatever it is. So it's seen a very strong need for this in the past 4 years, more clearly than ever, right? It's been truly in our faces. There's a lot of blatant lack of information in leaders, and unless we assume, of course, that they are all in on it and part of it, right? Which I don't want to assume. So without going into the details of what's going on right now, which is really up to all our listeners to explore and research, let's talk about the importance of being informed as a leader or influencer in general terms, right? The importance of having that 360-degree view as much as possible, and of looking beyond mainstream news, beyond TV and radio, beyond YouTube, beyond the top results on Google searches, just to name a few of those, right? So do you want to talk to that just a little bit?
Yeah, so I think, it's really important to be informed because you don't want to have blinders on you. You want to know what's going on around you. You want to be able to actually know what you're talking about. And you don't want to get into echo chambers as well. That's one thing that you see a lot, the tribalism, the echo chambers, not going and doing the research on the other side of the table to see actually is what I believe the right thing? Because I feel like people don't ask themselves that question. They don't go, well, is what I actually believe correct? So I feel like, and this is something that I did earlier on, when I first started researching everything that I research is, I only looked at it from a perspective of what I agree with. But then, as I've matured years later and I've gone back from being 16 to sort of going into my 20s, I'm now 30. I actually look at all angles. I read and watch all sorts of different things from all sorts of different perspectives and really try to inform myself. And I think that that is what you want to do, in leadership, in every aspect of your life, even listening to audiobooks like what I do as well. Um, listening to like over 17 days worth of audiobooks, which is what I'm currently on at the moment, and just trying to get as informed as I possibly can.
Yeah, and you can do that while you're walking or doing sports, right? That's the good thing about Audible. Yes, and oftentimes we also find a piece of the truth on the other side, right? Even though it might not all be true or all be facts or whatnot, but there's usually a piece of the truth everywhere. I also believe that as leaders and influencers, and all leaders to a certain extent are influencers, because if they don't lead anybody, they're not leaders, right? So they also influence people. So they have that responsibility, and sometimes I hear people say that, and then the next sentence, like I have heard people say that in virtual events, and in the next sentence they totally undo their statement by making some crazy statement that we know is just not true, right? So those have been really interesting moments. Anyway, now I know we have a lot to share with our audience, and also more technical stuff, because you are in technology, especially with the business owners among our audience today. Anyone who also, though, not just business owners or entrepreneurs, but also those who will really work in the area of AI, maybe employees who work in that area, or in the area of funnel building, or SaaS, like software as a service, right? Whether they are employees or entrepreneurs, doesn't really matter. So because this podcast is, of course, for all leaders, whether they practice their leadership of self or others, and wherever they practice that. right? So you've been building some of my funnels in my CRM Create Demand, which I started working with since, well, in November last year. And you have a big role in Create Demand as the man for everything design, everything funnel building, and AI. And you've built some amazing templates for all the users too. And you've also helped me with some customized templates as well. Or customized funnels. Plus, I also have to mention this because I attended an AI course that you put together with Cy Hearn from Create Demand as well, and that was fantastic. So let's talk a little bit to us about funnel building and why you love this work, or do you love it, or so let's talk about that. How do you
Yeah,
support
so
your people?
yeah, so I actually got into funnel building when I met Simon. You know, in my past businesses that I've tried to get involved with, I learned a little bit about building websites and sort of how the front end of a website works, with coding, CSS, HTML. A lot of people won't know what that means, so I won't go too deeply into that. But you know,
Fine.
I actually do love the work. I love working for Creative Demand. I love working with Simon and Marco. And I love the creative aspect of funnel building. I love the fact that I can go from nothing there to bring either my idea to life or bring someone else's idea to life, like what their idea of what they want is. And to sort of, it's a similar thing, and this goes back to barbering, of when you're giving someone an haircut, you sort of starting with a blank slate, you know, they've got really long hair, and then it goes from being something that's like don't look great to something that's absolutely fantastic. And I think that that's part of it. I think the creation side of it, being able to make someone really happy with my work as well, I think that that's really important to me. I'm a man who loves my praise. Simon will tell you that, you know, sometimes praise can feel even better than praise for me, because just that aspect of someone being really pleased with something that I've done and, you know, being like, oh, thank you so much, you know, you've really helped me. And this, you know, that's really important to me. I love people, and, you know, being able to work and build people funnels and work with people closely like you, Regina, and other people inside Creative Demand. You know, it's really rewarding for me. So, you know, funnel building for me is absolutely amazing. And I actually sort of fell into it by accident. And I think that people can attest to this in a lot of situations. People don't always go for what they want and then get exactly what they want, and then they're in their exact situation they expected. I don't think that happens for most people. But I got into funnel building by accident. I didn't even actually know what a funnel was like 2 years ago. I knew what a website was, but I didn't know what a funnel was. And then, you know, I was informed by Simon and, you know, Marco and Simon, just they love my work ethic, they love my work rate. But they were like, if you can learn how to build funnels, then you've got a really major role in this business with us. So me being me, I just buckled down, spent hours and hours and hours in front of my laptop, just getting head boggled with code and CSS and all this, and things going wrong and all that sort of thing, and getting to a point where I am today. And looking back at the moments and feeling like it was almost impossible, like, how am I going to learn this? I didn't, you know, I didn't think I was a technical person. I didn't really believe I was good at technology, but it's all about beliefs in that aspect as well, isn't it? Like, you don't
Yes.
believe until you do. And but I've always like believed in myself. I've even got a tattoo on my chest that said "believe in yourself" as well. Because when I was actually really young, I didn't believe in myself at all, and I thought getting that on my chest might suddenly make me believe in myself. But it's been really important for me over the years to be able to gain that belief in myself. And I feel like I'm at a place now where I really do believe in myself. I'm actually really confident in what I do. But it takes time. So anybody listening to this who, you, you know, you don't know what to do, you don't know if you're heading in the right direction, just keep going, because you will find something and it will click into place.
I love that. So you have a tattoo about that?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I've got a
Okay.
tattoo that goes across my
Yeah.
chest that says "believe in
Okay.
yourself."
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Awesome. Yes. You cannot forget it.
no, it's literally there. It's on me forever.
Yeah, in the morning you get up, you go before you get under the shower, you already know it. That's really great. Okay.
Yeah,
Yes, and what you just said, it's really about, it's a lot about self-leadership again. So you were incredibly driven when you found this opportunity that was laid on your path and you ran with it and you had the mindset and the perseverance and you just did it, right? I
yeah,
really like hearing this. Of course, if it had been something that you didn't like at all, you wouldn't have done it because then we also sometimes have to say no and say, oh, that's not the right thing for us.
yeah,
But in this case, it was, although you didn't have the knowledge at first. It reminds me
yeah,
actually, Miles, of when an opportunity showed up for me to move to Spain at the age of 26. And I always wanted to move abroad with BCG, where I was working at the time, a global consulting firm. And it didn't work out right away. In the other countries, I wanted to go to the US. It was difficult because of the green card, whatnot. Although, and I eventually ended up there with a green card through BCG, but that was later. But there was this opportunity to go to Spain, and a colleague told me about it, and I said, "But Peter, I don't speak Spanish." And he says, "Well, you can learn that." And I said, of course I can. You are right. And so I did in a few months, right? And I was sitting there in the evenings. The classes were actually paid by the firm, so that was good. But at first they didn't even start because the teachers at that school were on strike. So I had to start myself. So I would be ready on time because they said I had 3 months. And so, yeah, it was a bit tight. Yeah. And so my first interview was in English and I did the same thing as you did. So I really, really like hearing this. I think, it can get you to great places when you really make that decision. We have to make a decision.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think that's right. And that got me from doing the funnel building and then doing a bit of video editing and then doing graphics and so same thing with video editing. Last year I had no idea how to edit a video. I'd never really edited a video at all. I'd even done less video editing than what I did actual website building at that point. But
Mhm.
now I work with Simon and I build ads for different companies, Marco and others. Um, so you know, and I really love it as well. Like it's really rewarding work. It's hard work. I've got a million and one tasks to do every single day, but it's really rewarding for me.
That's great. And as I said earlier, I attended the AI course that you put together with Cy as well. Simon from
Yeah,
Create Demand, and that was truly fantastic. I loved it, although I haven't even been able to implement it all yet because there was so much in it that you shared with us. And what was also great is that it was included as part of my CRM. Actually, I mean that was just amazing. It's not usually the case. Where else do you get that, right? So I'm actually going to include the link to Create Demand to that offer in the description to this podcast because it's such an amazing deal and so many people pay far too much for, well, compared with this at least, for some other CRMs, and this includes everything. So for anyone who might be interested in checking it out, I'm going to put it in the description. It's really up to the listeners. Anyway, tell us more about what you do in the area of AI and how you show up as a leader in that area.
yeah. So I mean, my thoughts about AI was very similar to what other people believed at first. Very scary.
Mhm.
You've watched all these different films like about AI, iRobot, and it's gonna take over and it's gonna, in some cases kill people or whatever. Like Hollywoodized things. But actually, really, what you've got to understand about AI is that it's a technology that is not going to go away and it actually has to be used by other people. AI on its own can only do so much. It has to be directed. And
Mhm.
so if there's no direction, then it's not going to do very much. Now, I don't know what Elon Musk's got planned for us in the future with, how far he's going to take it. But all I want to tell you, like you guys, is that, and Regina, is use AI on your workflow. So anything that you're doing in your day-to-day life where, you've got tasks to do like writing emails, or you've got, you might have to write out a report, or you might have to create ads like me, still ads and stuff like that. Or, you might have to do even some funnel building.
Mhm.
Um, you said that there were quite a lot of different things within that AI course that and you can't get through it all. But take what serves and leave what doesn't. That's what I say, because it's not all to be used. Like, just because it's all out there, don't mean that we have to take advantage of every single bit of AI that we come across. Some of it's gonna just get memory hold into the past and not be used, and some of it's really gonna move forward. And I think for me, just to name a few, ChatGPT is one of the ones that I use on a day-to-day basis that I couldn't live without right now. It helps me in every single aspect for like copy for funnels, helping me code, which a lot of people probably don't realize that AI can do, help you code CSS into your website. Simon used it recently to help him with some formulas for a Google sheet of all things. And I use it for copy for websites. You ask it for 10 different really engaging headlines, and then you can choose the one that best fits and best seems the most engaging and stuff like that. And it's better than sitting there with writer's block trying to figure out like, because for me, being design minded, I find design easy in a
Mhm.
way, like where it comes naturally to me. But then after I've designed it, I'm like, wait, what do I put in now? Like, what words do I put there? Because it looks nice, but does this actually convert? And so ChatGPT really helps me with that. Like, you know, I prompt it and tell it to give me everything. Explain the business, explain who it's for, explain the pain points of the person that it's aimed at, and just give it as much information as what you possibly can, and then ask it to help you build it out for you. And don't worry if it's not perfect straight away. No one's perfect, and it doesn't always have to be perfect, and you can always tweak it and stuff like that. But another one that I use often as well is Midjourney, which is an image AI generation tool. That's one of my favorite ones. I use it for ads and stuff like that. That's a really good use case for it. Ads, portraits, um, you can even, I mean, there's so many different ways that you can use Midjourney. And I'm just trying to think of some like in a practical way that I use them. Like even for Marco's AI challenge that we did, I created an AI version of Marco wearing like a futuristic suit. And
I
to me
remember
that
that.
that was perfectly encapsulating what AI is, and it actually helps you to create things that are amazing. Like different images and stuff like that. I actually use another one as well called Submagic, which is a automated subtitles like app that you can use. So when you finish creating your video, you can put it into Submagic, and then it automatically creates you really, eye-catching and captivative, uh, you know, subtitles and stuff like that. And it basically gets it all right. I mean, 99% of it's right. You just have to go in and tweak it and stuff like that. And there's other ones like Perplexity, and that's the one where it's like a search engine like Google, but it's a little bit more intuitive, and it's a little bit more specific as well. And it's like ChatGPT, but it gives you sources of exactly where it's found things and stuff like that, which is really cool. And the way that I say that I lead in that area as well is that I'm just constantly, researching the newest technologies and constantly researching, like, right, how can not only can I practically use it for myself, but how can I teach other people how to use this in their business? And is it going to be useful for them in their business and stuff like that? And I think that's what our AI challenge was all about when we did that, and an AI course. And I think that we are on about, because it was so successful, a lot of people did say that they loved it. And I think that maybe in a year's time, because we all know how fast AI is actually going forwards and stuff like that. So in another year, we don't even know how far. I mean, there's another one from OpenAI that's called Sora that's going to be a video generation tool, just like sort of like Midjourney, but with videos. I mean, you've already got something like Runway, but they're really trying to get it to a point where seeing some, and it's not indistinguishable from real life yet, but it will get there. I think in next 2 years, 1 year, 2 years, we're going to be having AI videos that you don't even really realize that AI. But all I'll say to people is take advantage of it yourself. You know, get the technology, know how to use it, because you're not. I don't think you're going to get replaced by AI. I think people who don't know how to use AI will be replaced by people that do.
Hmm.
That's what I think. So get learning it, you know, put this aside of that you're scared of it and that it's scary and stuff like that, and just take advantage of it because it's not going to go away, and running away from it is going to be more of a hindrance than running towards it.
Right. We're not going to just wish it away if you don't like it, right? So that's
Exactly.
the point. Yes, a great point. And thank you for mentioning all these examples that some people might not be familiar with and might want to look up. So that's great. Yes, and also do your reviews after you use it. Give, for example, if you write copy, and you probably can attest to that, Miles, uh, give it your own style, your own touch. You can also instruct AI to do that, but still, oftentimes there are like platitudes. Like if I ask it to help me write a quick paragraph about specific things, about specific topic, and usually I give it a draft already, right? Because, and then I get another, I consider what I get back another draft. And then it's my draft number 2. And then I adapt it once again to my style, because what we often get back also are things like in today's past a fast-paced world, and then we read it in all the social media posts, right? So I already know if something starts with "in today's fast-paced world," it's AI written, and I might not even read it because I think, oh, that person hasn't really given it any personal touch. However, if you use it in a way that it still sounds like you, then it's completely different. And
Yeah,
and another thing is, yes, sometimes we do need to also really check on things because I had it add up numbers once, and then I put all those numbers in an Excel sheet, and it was wrong. So sometimes you need to question it, and
yeah.
not just take everything that you get in terms of output. Not everything is reliable. And even when you go to ChatGPT, it has a disclaimer on it saying not everything is correct. So I can't remember exactly what it says, but something to that extent, right?
Always proofread what it's saying.
Hmm.
I mean, with numbers, I probably wouldn't even be able to know what it meant anyway. I probably wouldn't even have an answer, so I wouldn't know how to do it in that way. But when I'm proofreading copy, I'm reading it and I'm going, why have you put this and why have you put that, and really refining what it's saying. But another
Hmm.
great thing as well that you could do is now you can create your own GPT. And
Hmm.
so if you put your own book into GPT and you sort of you want to transcribe videos that you've brought out as well, and if you can transcribe and um, put in all the writings you've ever done into a GPT, you can create your own personal GPT that talks like you when it types because it understands that the way that you speak, because
Hmm.
sometimes it's sort of like just going from itself. It's got no reference points. So that's why a lot of people's GPT things sound the same. It's always embark and
Yeah,
unlock
on the
and
journey.
on the journey. Yeah, and another one that I really want to quickly just go into as well is because I know that I use it on like a regular basis, and I forgot to bring it up is 11 Labs, and 11 Labs is absolutely amazing because it clones your voice, and we've done this for about 4 or 5 businesses now. And the way that we personally use it is if someone signs up to a challenge or to a course or something like that, or even like for a company that I'm working for now, on the start of their YouTube videos, we actually, because he's not the best at being able to actually introduce the videos or or whatever, and we have like a title screen and we have um the AI voice that's his voice properly introducing the video. And that's really amazing. And like when people sign up to a challenge, it'll be like a voice note from that person that you'll get as well as your email. as well as your text message. You'll actually get a personalized voice note that calls them up on the phone and speaks to them as if they're on the phone, and then puts the phone down as soon as it's finished. And I think that that's a really nice touch. And I know that like a lot of people are like, wow, you can clone voices and it sounds exactly the same. But the thing is when we've actually been creating these, is you can only create one of those voices per account. That's so there's you can create as many as you want that are as advanced, but the main advanced one you can only create one, and you
Mm,
actually have to have a voice note of the person whose voice it is, like a sort of security system.
hmm.
So you can't just go around cloning anybody's voice who you want.
Yeah,
They've got to be
that's a
there,
bit
and they've
scary.
got to, yeah, yeah, they've got to put in their own, voice code in there. So don't worry about getting your voice cloned and stuff like that, against your own wishes, especially in that technology, because you can't do it.
Yeah, because I was worried about them.
Yeah,
Thanks for
yeah,
saying that. Okay. Well, I know, as always, we could go on for hours and hours. We could fill an entire day with our conversations. I know that every time we get on a call, we have to really say, okay, we need to go back to work. But
yeah.
but yeah, but you've shared so much and very generously. Thank you so much for that. I'm sure, our listeners don't have all day, so I'm gonna sort of cut it here. Although I'm really sorry to have to let you go. And one thing that I wanted to ask you, though, actually two things. First of all, where can people find you?
People can find me on Instagram, Miles underscore Austin underscore AI. That's what I go on Instagram. I'm not a massive social media person. I'm
Okay.
quite behind the scenes. I'm Miles Austin on Meta or Facebook,
Yeah.
and I'm on LinkedIn as well at Miles Austin. So if you want to find me and have a chat with me, you're more than welcome.
Okay. And we're gonna put the links that you shared with me in the description as well.
Yeah.
Any last words of wisdom, anything that you absolutely need to say today that I haven't asked you or you haven't had an opportunity to say?
Yeah, I just want to sort of speak to the people who are sort of confused and they don't really know where it is that they want to go in life, or they're having a rough time. Like, honestly, guys, just keep on going. We're never going to understand exactly where we want to be straight away, and it just takes patience and persistence to get to where you really want to be. And am I where I really want to be? I'm close to it. I'm getting there, but I'm not fully there yet. So just stay persistent. And I've really loved it on this podcast with Regina, and I hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day. And I hope you enjoyed listening to this.
Thank you so much for sharing this. This was directly from the heart. I love it. And I couldn't agree more. Plus, our visions grow with us. So you actually never get to the final destination. And you get to your next milestone and then
Yeah,
have a new vision, right? Because otherwise you would be stagnant, and we don't really want that as people who always want to learn. Um, People like you, me, our listeners. Again, thanks so much for listening, to everyone tuning in today. And thanks to you, Miles, for inspiring us through your story and your beautiful personality, and also for enlightening us with your precious knowledge.
you're welcome. Thank you, Regina. I've appreciated being on here today.
Absolutely. For me as well. And I hear or see you all next time.
See you next time, guys.
Thank you for tuning in to Rise to Lead. Keep shining your light, standing up for what's right, and inspiring others to step into their brilliance. If you liked this episode, please give it a 5-star rating and subscribe to the Rise to Lead podcast on your preferred podcast app. Until next time, it's Regina Huber, and in the meantime, remember to rise to lead.